Hi there and welcome. In this video we'll be telling you about the R100's transatlantic voyage from Cardington in England to Montreal in Canada and back. Our story begins with the Imperial Airship service, which was a plan to link up the dominions of the British Empire with Great Britain. In the 1920s it was decided that airships would be ideal for the job, being able to cross vast distances and having great range compared to the aeroplanes of the time. After being constructed in Howden in Yorkshire and then flowed down to Cardington, this was to be the R100's operational base, alongside its sister ship, the R101. The R100 had first flown in December 1929 and made a number of test flights from Cardington. In the summer of 1930, it was decided that an international trial flight to Canada would be made. The Canadian government had built a mooring mast for the ship to dock at St Hubert Airport in Montreal. The mooring mast at St Hubert was a gigantic structure, 60 metres high, which enclosed all the complex machinery required for mooring, refuelling and servicing future airships coming into Canada. The design work was done in Canada by the Department of Public Works, while the Canadian subsidiary of Vickers of Montreal received a building contract. The mooring tower was completed in May 1930. The flight of the R100 to Canada was originally scheduled to take place in May or June of 1930, but this was delayed as the R100 had sustained some damage whilst exiting the shed at Cardington and needed to be repaired. Over in Montreal, preparations were made to handle the huge crowds. Some 600,000 people or more were expected to flock to see the ship. Media coverage was on a scale never seen before in Canada. The ship slipped its moorings from the Cardington mast at 2:48 am on the morning of the 29th of July 1930. The ship flew up through the Irish Sea, past north of Ireland and then out over to the Atlantic. The transatlantic passage was smooth for the first 2 days, but when turning down the Newfoundland coast, the airship ran into difficulties over the St Lawrence Valley. During this time, the R100 was buffeted by very strong winds. It was during this storm that a large number of tears appeared on 3 of the fins, and the engines had to be stopped for 8 hours so that repairs could be made by the riggers. They went outside to carefully secure the outer cover on the fins. This would be a daunting task when you're floating at 1,000 feet. Once back underway, the R100 flew over the city of Quebec. It was estimated that some 40,000 or more people cheered and waved as the airship slowly flew overhead. A second incident occurred closer to Montreal as the R100 flew through storm clouds and very strong updrafts caused more damage to the fabric on the fins. Further temporary repairs were made by the riggers in flight, which would hold the cover until it could be replaced at the mast at Montreal. The R100 finally arrived at the Montreal mast on the 1st of August at 5:37 am in the morning, after a voyage of some 78 hours and 49 minutes. A journey of 3,364 miles. Upon its arrival, Montreal simply went wild. There were dozens of VIPs on hand and a huge crowd. 24 aircraft transported sightseers by the hundreds to the airport to see the ship. According to some estimates, more than 1 million people came to see the R100 during its 16-day stint at St Hubert. During this time, tours of the ship were allowed and some 3,000 people actually had the chance to tour the airship. The visit may have been a rare pleasure, but the half-metre gap between the airship's gangway and the tower's platform gave quite a scare for many visitors to the ship. The crew were deemed heroes for the voyage. They enjoyed banquets and receptions in their honour and had time to explore the Montreal area and even travelled to see Niagara Falls. Work on the ship commenced immediately, and new fabric panels for the damaged fins were prepared by Canadian Vickers, which also did some minor repairs to the interior of the ship. It was seen that this trip would be the start of many crossings and the start of commercial operations for airships. Flights over southern Ontario, Quebec and the eastern townships had been planned from the start, but these had to be postponed and modified due to the damage that had occurred to the fins to be repaired. After the repairs had been made, it was agreed that one flight could be made. On the evening of the 10th of August, the R100 left with a number of senior military officers, government officials and one journalist, a passenger list of 18 people in all. During the next 26 hours, the ship flew over Ottawa, southern Ontario, the Niagara Peninsula and most notably Toronto, where cars stopped to watch the R100 and caused horrendous traffic jams. The R100 started back to England on the 13th of August. As thousands cheered it on, many were expecting to see it return within a few months, and making use of the Gulf Stream, managed to knock off an incredible 21 hours off the outward bound flight, which is nearly a day. Therefore arriving on the 16th of August at 11:06 am in the morning. This was after some 2,995 miles and a return trip time of 57 hours 56 minutes. Some 19 journalists were invited as passengers for the return leg back to the United Kingdom. There were a few problems on the way home, noticeably the loss of cooking facilities as the electric oven was shorted out on the return due to the ingress of water through the outer cover. On her return to Cardington there was less of a public reception as had been seen in Canada, however some 200 cars and coaches turned up. The crews were congratulated by Lord Thomson, the Secretary of State for Air, when they finally descended the mast at Cardington. The ship was then carefully put in the shed for inspection, and attention was then switched for preparations for the R101's flight to India. The crew were excited to be home, and also showed off some of the presents they had been given whilst in Canada, such as this gramophone. Because many of the members of the crew were actually operating on both ships, the majority were then transferred over to the R101. This was the last time that the R100 flew and was ever seen outside, as the tragedy of the R101 put paid to any future voyages by British rigid airships. We hope you enjoyed this video and thanks for watching.